Hi there. Thanks for joining me. This will serve as an introduction. We're going to talk about writing science fiction, general sci-fi topics, maybe reviews, books, or even movies. We'll see. I thought we'd start off with why I decided to start writing science fiction. I always loved sci-fi. I read a ton. I started as a kid with Asimov, Clarke, Niven, and so forth. And then in the audiovisual realm, of course, there was Star Trek on TV and Star Wars in the movies as a kid. I love science, too. I always have, my whole life. And I decided to write. I had an epiphany when an author I love very much, Ian Banks, died. I found out he had died. And at that point, in that moment, I said, oh no, there won't be any more great science fiction by him. Obviously. Well, I guess I better write some. And so I decided to do it. And one thing I liked about his work is that it really seemed to cross genres. I couldn't put my finger on exactly what genre that was. It was very expansive, all-encompassing science fiction, where you had the singularity, you had the elimination of scarcity, you had omnipresent and omniscient AIs and controlling the culture series by Banks. There's really powerful tropes and quite a few memes in there. And, I wouldn't really call it space opera. And somebody else would probably in the comments tell me what genre they think that is. And I'd like to mention that a little bit, but the tropes in books that fit into different genres. Back in the day, for example, there was no cyberpunk. And then with Gibson, some others, suddenly there was. Now that's a large genre. It was in and out of favor, depending on the era, I suppose. For stories by authors I like, I feel it's hard to nail down a genre for a lot of them, for my favorites. Richard Morgan, Neil Asher, and Ian Banks. Again, some of you probably know, oh, they're exactly this genre right here, you fool. They have a lot of similar tropes and themes, I find, but I'm not sure what genre that is. It's not really space opera. So there probably is one. I make music too, and I have the same problem with that. I make electronic music, and the broad category is electronic music. EDM is often called now, supposedly for most of it. Really, a lot of my work is more experimental, ambient, or industrial, who knows what. And for more mainline EDM work out there, I feel like the plethora of genres people have gets very quickly into splitting hairs or pigeonholing. There are so many different ones. They even have a big chart, an infographic on which genre something is. Aren't those just different styles of songs? And if that artist just plays the same song over and over with a different melody and slightly different beat, with those characteristics, I'm not sure I call them genre. And I don't know that it's especially explanatory, other than define that song and hopefully not an artist. So I don't think that's the case for sci-fi really, though, but I did find it hard. This came up, and why I'm mentioning it now, trying to pick the genres for my novel, The Way of the Den, on Amazon. You could just make it the general science fiction genre, but then you can pick a couple of others that it fits into. And for my book, which is it? Is it First Contact? Is it Alien Invasion? Is it space opera? Well, no. Is it hard science fiction? Maybe not exactly. It doesn't fit that. Certainly not quite cyberpunk, with some elements of that. The short of it is, I feel like I don't really subscribe to genre tracking. When I wrote it, I just wrote the story, and whatever genre it is, it is. And then you just have to deal with it when assigning one or two for hopefully marketing the book a little bit better on Amazon. Currently, working on a sequel to The Way of the Den, and the genres there are a lot more clear, I think. The novella that's coming out on December 1st, Fletcher and Mare, definitely leans in the cyberpunk direction. But the next one's going to be called The Power of the Den, and it's much more a space opera. It's much more clear that it's that genre when you're looking at it than the first one was. And I wasn't sure really planning to write a sequel to The Way of the Den or a trilogy when I started out, but enough people asked for a sequel, which was really flattering. I'm really glad I decided to go forward with it. The story arc is really getting interesting for me now as I'm writing it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading, if you have. I welcome all your comments and discussions below. I'd love to know what you think about genre labeling and the state of science fiction at the moment. Cheers.